Coming to you from the M&M Exterior Studio in Knoxville, Virginia, this is Flushing It Out with Samantha Spittle, the introvert's extrovert. She talks to people so you don't have to. For now.
Welcome back to Flushing It Out with Samantha Spittle, the introvert's extrovert. I am here with episode 26 return guest, Amelia Stansell.
Ooh, ooh.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. I'm coming back. I want the world to know. Amelia said she didn't get a song before when we first recorded this because we had to re-record. So I wanted to make sure to give her a song. So
I got a song.
There you go, Amelia.
I'm song-worthy.
You are song-worthy.
I'm serenaded today. It's a good day.
Thank you so much for coming back.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, so for those, if you didn't hear it, or just to recap, we talked about getting our stuff together last time, kicking off a new year. But whenever you listen to it, it's always a great time to get your shit together. Yes. Sorry, kids. So today we're going to talk about getting your money together. Because Amelia knows her stuff. So thank you, Amelia.
You're welcome.
I'm going to read. She brought back a bio, guys. I'm telling you, she has her stuff together. She has her stuff together. So I want to go through that to kind of update you on kind of who she is. Also why she knows her stuff and why I respect her so much for knowing her stuff. And then just throw a little disclaimer out there. But I'm excited to jump in to talk about money because money is the thing that everyone wants, but no one wants to talk about. We just want it to magically grow on trees. But yet we don't want to actually discuss, I feel like a lot of times, how to get there. Not to how to get to the money tree. If that was the case, I would love that.
Christmas tree farm. Bam. Done.
Boom. Is that the secret to making money?
At least growing trees.
Oh, okay. Cool. I really thought, I was like, oh my gosh, is this a great money making opportunity?
No.
Do we need to start a Christmas tree farm?
Go down to the stock tip.
All right. So to recap, you guys, who is Amelia? So instead of me saying, Amelia, who are you? I'm going to read who you are, unless you want to read it.
No, that's weird. If I read it, go ahead.
I'm going to read who she is so that she's not, the hardest question I feel like I always ask on the podcast is, who are you? So she came prepared. Amelia is the wife of Troy, the mother of Amelia, Grace, and Bitsy, ages 5 and 7, and Callie, their exchange student from China, who's a senior and is living with them for the year. She serves on several local, national, and global boards. She's an adjunct instructor for the Lord Fairfax Community College's Workforce Solution and their Leadership Institute. She leads a women's leadership book club. She's a senior commercial loan officer, as well as being very active in her church, and is, of course, a daughter, a sister, a friend. She has a passion for traveling. Her and her husband are on a mission to visit 50 countries and all 50 states before they're 50. And she's at 33, Troy's sitting at 35, and she only has 5 states to go.
In one country, we're knocking off next week.
That is amazing. What's next week?
Panama.
So when this comes out, you will have been to Panama.
Oh, I'll be tan. It'll be wonderful.
Oh, jealous. Are the kids going on that one?
Yep.
Oh, so good. So so I often tell people when people start to give me praises for like, Samantha, you're so amazing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. But then after a while, and they're like, I can't believe you travel with your kids so much. I can't believe you go on all these road trips. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, thank you for recognizing how amazing I am. But I have a friend who travels freaking internationally with her kids. And so I feel like that puts me to shame.
No.
But Amelia reminds me that road trips are harder. And so
road trips are way harder than being on an airplane. You don't have the jet lag issue that we deal with when we travel.
True.
But being on an airplane is way easier than being in a car.
I don't know. Yeah. See, I was always afraid to travel with kids because I felt like you were trapped in a box. But then I was on a plane after the kids got a little older and it was so loud on the plane. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
And there's always at least one kid way worse than yours. I mean, mine are really good travelers, like freakishly good travelers, but there's always at least one screamer. So we usually get on and somebody is like, everybody looks at us like, oh, you have kids. And it's like, our kids have been traveling since they were 8 weeks old. They're good. And so.
And it made me feel better seeing your kids with devices on your trips.
Oh, heck yeah.
Like, I felt like, oh my gosh, you are exposing your kids to all this international travel and they're so cultured and they're so exposed. And then seeing them one time on a device, I was like, oh, thank God.
Well,
praise the Lord. Okay, good.
They use their devices to take their own pictures and their own videos and stuff. So
I know they're getting the experience, but it just made me feel better knowing that like, please tell me that when you're eating dinner in a foreign country that they're playing a game on their phone eventually.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I just needed that for my mom heart.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would like to say I'm that perfect mom. Like, I totally, before I had kids, like, I would never give my kids a device. What loser gives their kids devices? Yeah. Come on. And then I was like, and here's a phone. But I know here's my old phone. You can have my old phone. You can't, like, see the real world with it, but you can take pictures and you can play a lot of Fisher-Price and ABC Mouse, baby.
Yes, you give them all the culture, all the experience, but I'm glad to know that there's some device time in there.
Yes, there's definitely some Netflix downloads to be able to be on planes and stuff. Yes.
Not that we should compare. I know if you didn't, it shouldn't matter. You do you.
Yeah, I do me, and I do me with technology.
I do. Yeah, me too. But if you don't, I totally respect and love you for it too. Whoever you are.
Saint if you are. Whichever one you are, because there's probably one.
Yeah, good for you. Proud of it. I'm proud of it all. Okay, so some relevant experience. Why are we talking to Amelia about money, even though she's a banker? Is she here today just because she's a banker? Definitely not. Even though bankers are amazing, but that's not what makes her so special. So she's been in the financial services industry for 2 decades as a financial advisor, then as a banker. And she's worked in the private sectors and personal banking to small businesses, and she's currently serving the commercial clients. She's had her insurance and investment licenses. However, she no longer does, so she's not sharing any hot stock tips today.
Sorry.
Bummer.
Yeah, sorry.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. Wah, wah.
Okay, so you guys.
Tune out now. No.
Boom, wah, wah, wah. So obviously you can tell I'm like a little more official today because she gave me her bio. But the real reason I want to is to give the personal disclaimer, because podcasts are a place for honesty, but we do not want to get sued.
Yes.
So her personal disclaimer is that she's not a certified financial planner. She's but a mere human with over 20 years in the financial services industry. And she's seen a lot of good, bad, and ugly during that time. And she's learned a lot, and she's here and willing to share it with us. But remember, she's not psychic, nor does she have a crystal ball, or else she would not be on this free podcast. Any advice she gives is based on her personal experience and not a reflection of or on behalf of her employer or any of their subsidiaries. She'll be speaking in generalities here, and to get specific personal advice, always speak with a professional about your specific goals and situation.
You like that?
Thank you, Amelia.
I don't think any attorney would ever allow me to say all that, but
I feel that made me feel like, oh my gosh, I feel like we're like totally a legit podcast now with this disclaimer.
Yes. And I'm sure like any attorney would be like, you can't say all that. You can't
say all that. Yeah. I don't really know. People are like, why are they even saying this? Well, I said, I feel like I need to give the disclaimer that, because I always joke about this being free therapy, but the disclaimer is this is in no way therapy. I highly recommend real therapy. This is simply support on the road of life and helping to figure out the human condition.
Should we run the disclaimer by our podcast sponsor first?
Yes, yeah, right. So I was like, maybe you should send this to your podcast sponsor and he can he'll legalize this and go, yeah, you can't say any of this trash. It means nothing.
Eminem, how do you feel about this? He would not want to do that because he doesn't want to lawyer anymore.
Yeah.
He's done lawyering.
He's done lawyering.
Yeah. I'm so educated. You'd never know I was an English major. He's done with the lawyering world. That's great. So as I said, you guys, Amelia helped us get our shit together last time, and she has her money act together. And what I love is that when we've met Amelia, when we go out to lunch and stuff, you're willing to kind of share your heart. And the reason I say your heart is because I remember one coffee we had in particular is I hope I can say this. You can tell me if you don't want me to share this.
Okay.
But this is why I love your heart and why I love you and why I wanted to talk about this today, because you have not only a heart for finances because of your background, which we'll kind of recap and talk about. You don't only have a passion for saving money because you're financially sound. You have a heart for truly helping other people, and you want to give back to your community, and you want to give back to like humanity. And so I feel like you can get advice anywhere, but when the person who you're listening to has like a heart for travel, I was joking before about, oh, you've visited all this stuff. You must be in debt to your eyeballs, like that old commercial, to be able to travel. People might assume that, but because I know you and we've talked about it, it's like, I know you are able to make these decisions because of your financial good decisions. And so anyway, I just wanted to give you that plug because I just remember talking to you, and we didn't just talk about the fun things you do with your money or the frugal things you do with your money. We talked about what ways you've been able to give back and to support people and to, make changes in people's life. And so I just really respect and appreciate you for that. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So why don't you recap, if you didn't, you can stop now and go back to episode 26. Or for the sake, if you want to just keep on listening, Amelia, give us a little personal recap of kind of who you are and how I think it's important to understand people's financial philosophies, because so much of our beliefs are shaped by our childhood. And I would love for you to kind of share, and you kind of talked about this last time, but recap how you got your beliefs about money. And my hope is that, people, one, just learn about you, but also it can kind of help us all start tapping into how do we feel about money.
Sure. So, I shared before last time about growing up on a farm, and, unfortunately on our farm, like many family-owned farms, if anybody knows any family-owned farms, that's extremely difficult. The 70s and 80s were brutal on farms, still are, especially on small farms.
Actually, yeah, we have family that are going a dairy farm and some other people, and it's brutal. It's brutal.
It is brutal, and we had a small farm, and unfortunately, we lost it. You lost the farm.
Yeah.
We lost it in a foreclosure, and my mom ended up declaring bankruptcy, and my parents got divorced, and we lived in a life of scarcity. I mean, I would say we were poor. I would not say that we were never, I don't know. It's going to sound bad, but like welfare poor kind of a thing, partially because my parents would never, that was against anything they believed in. And we always had like dairy products on the farm. So we could always have milk. We could always make butter. We could always, you could barter for stuff. So, I mean, we always had food.
Yeah. You had a roof and you had food, but there was
no extra. And so we would pay bills as a family, and it was me and my brother, my mom and my dad, and we would sit around this round table, and I would open the envelopes and lay out the bills, and my mom would write the checks and do the little abacus adding machine thing. And then my dad would be the one to put them back in the thing. And we would all go through and we would make the decisions. Like, we would get milk check once a month, and sometimes the milk check, oftentimes it wasn't enough. And so what bill gets paid doesn't get paid. How do you stretch this? What else can we do? Is there anything else we can sell? Can we sell another piece of equipment? Can we sell, do we slaughter a cow? Which is, slaughtering a cow means that you're not going to have that livelihood next month or anytime in the future. So you could only do that so many times before you don't have money. And so unfortunately we ended up losing our herd over it and losing our farm, and it was devastating on our family. And so that's always stayed with me. And I've never wanted that, as I tear up about it, I've never wanted that for my family, because I remember how stressful that was as a kid, and seeing my parents under that stress. And so I've always said, I will never take out that kind of debt. I will never do those things. It's funny is that they declare bankruptcy over $250,000. And then in Northern Virginia, where you get in a house for $250,000. I mean, here we had a huge farm, and so in my mind, I was never going to borrow that kind of money ever. And then you go buy a house and
$250,000 is $250,000.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny when you say $250,000, it sounds huge. But then when I was like, oh my gosh, if you bought a $250,000 house, that's nothing.
Yeah, that's nothing in Northern Virginia. Yeah. And that's it. It's like, and also this was 94.
Yeah.
93, 94.
It's still a lot of money, for sure. 100% a lot of money. But that's what's scary, though.
It's in your mind, it's like you start rationalizing all of this.
Exactly. Now,
$250,000 sounds like a lot, and then you go, well, it's only $250,000 only.
And then people go buy houses at, crazy amounts, and it's like, no one, man, that just puts it in perspective that, how immune we've become with money.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And so so that was kind of my background. Bankers were the devil because, bankruptcy. Bankers were the devil. You had insurance. That was the necessary evil. There was no money, so there was no investing. So, in my world, money was always this taboo thing, and it was always this life of scarcity. And then move forward, getting into financial advising, insurance, and investment. So go back to my licenses and stuff. Who would have ever thought that little farm girl, Amy Jo, growing up, but Amelia is the adult because that's the more professional name. We'll go with the given name, and Amy Jo. But here, little Amy Jo is going to become a financial advisor and a banker. I'm very much against debt, and you asked earlier about what's my philosophy. I'm very much against it, against having personal debt. And it's funny because people are always like, but you're a banker.
You're lending money.
You kind of get paid to lend money to people. Yes, I do. And it totally doesn't, the words and music don't necessarily go together, other than if you do have to borrow. On the personal side, when I was still doing personal banking, is I would rather you borrow from me, where I'm going to make sure that you're in a plan that I'm not going to allow you to overextend yourself. I'm not going to do this, and I'm going to help you get out of it with a plan to get out of this as quickly as possible. So yes, I was facilitating loans, but trying to do it in a way that I could ethically feel okay about with my integrity. And then on the commercial side, knowing that most businesses can't grow at the level that they need to grow at without taking out debt. I mean, yes, some can. Yeah. Most can't. Yeah. So again, with me. But and then my husband, so a lot of this we're going to talk about is personal stuff. So my husband grew up, we talked about before, in a small town outside of Boise, and, his parents both worked. They were middle class. His dad had a decent job. His mom was a nurse, so good job there. Dad had a decent job, and got laid off, when Troy was in high school. And, then he started playing the credit card game. And so this credit card to that credit card and this 0%. And he had this stack of credit cards going from this card to that card to that card to this card to that card. And when he couldn't get a new job and then he got sick, he got cancer, I
didn't know that.
Not Troy.
Oh.
His dad, sorry. Oh. Troy's dad, yeah. No, when Troy's dad got cancer and the house of cards totally fell.
Yes.
Troy was in college at that point and watching his family go through it. And so fast forward to us getting married, and with those two backgrounds together, having the pact that we would never put our family through that. And I had read a great book, it's 19, when I read this book. It's The Richest Man in Babylon from George Clason. And it's one of the best financial books I've ever read. And it's maybe 100 pages long. It's really short. It's a financial fable, which I love. So it reads like a regular book. So you don't have to kill yourself over reading financial books. There's only nerds like me want to do that. And even that's painful for me.
Thank you.
But it's a really good book. And there's one quote in there that has become our family motto and we've always used this, which is, I'm willing to do today what you won't, so I can do tomorrow what you can't. And so that's where a lot of this comes from. And why, when you talk about, are you in debt up to your eyeballs to go on all these trips? No, because we made a lot of sacrifices early on so that we wouldn't have to later. And so, those are some of the things that we'll talk about today, but that's my background in why I'm passionate about this. And I know I came from nothing. Troy came from very little. And yet we've done okay for ourselves because we were willing to make some of these choices. And I am a firm believer that others can too, because we're not special snowflakes. We weren't born with a silver spoon. Nobody's given us anything. We've worked our butts off and made hard choices to get where we are. And anybody can.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's why I think it's relevant. Thank
you. Thank you for sharing. I love that. So you're going to jump into some tips on how to get financially fit. Where the heck do we start? So that is, where we're going to run to. One thing I do want to I don't want to digress too much, but you and I talked about kind of goal setting a little bit last time. We talked about kind of getting your life together. We thought about goal setting today, but we decided to kind of go in the financial route. But as I'm listening to you talk, it's reminding me that it's all centered around goal setting, because how do you and your spouse or yourself get on the same page if you don't set the same goal? So I'm encouraged to see in your notes that goal setting is part of it. Because, like I said, I think that's for me. As I was listening to you, I thought, if you don't have goals, then you just live for today. If you don't have a vision for tomorrow, then you blow it, and in this case, it would be financially blowing it. So we have to keep that eye on the prize.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that. And I think also, if you don't have a goal, either you live for today or you only live with your history and you keep repeating the same mistakes and that being stuck in that rut. And, it could have been very easily that I stayed in that scarcity mindset.
Yes.
It could have been very easily that I could have repeated all of my parents' same mistakes
Yes.
But it was a mindset and a choice to do different because it's setting goals to say, I don't know what else is out there, but there's got to be something more than a dairy farm. There's got to be something more than living like this, and starting to seek that out. So that's part of the goal setting too. So,
all right, jump in, girl. What do we need to?
So where to start? Yeah. So where to start? So one of the things you need to know where you are today. So, kind of looking at, if you're looking at the fitness side of it, is okay. It's the going in for your checkup, which works out well because Jeremy went for his checkup today. So perfect.
And that's why we had to record again, because I
may or may not have. We had a whole conversation that was wonderful, but it gave us a chance to redo it.
This one's so much better.
Yes, so much better.
I think it is, so it's okay.
So, but so starting out with having, figuring out where you are today. So getting at that snapshot. So in the financial world, that means pulling your credit reports. And so you can go, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, has put out that you can pull your credit report with all 3 reporting agencies once a year for free.
And it will not affect your credit?
Will not affect your credit. So you go out to annualcreditreport.com and, you can pull it. You can pull all 3 of them. You have the option of paying for a score. Don't ever pay for a credit score, because credit scores are wonky. I really hate, this is a whole other podcast at some point.
Okay.
I really hate credit scores and credit agencies. I love that they tell you kind of what someone's history is, but the credit score thing is so smoke and mirrors, because I could pull your credit today for a commercial loan. You go to the car dealership to pull it for a car dealership, and Jeremy goes to pull the same credit report for getting a credit card. We're all going to get different numbers. Even with the same agency, because we all weigh things differently. So credit scores, so you get your credit score from Discover, sends it to you on your credit card bill. How they weigh it's different than how a mortgage company is going to weigh it. So yes, you have an 800 credit score with on your Discover thing, but then your mortgage company is like, no, you're like a 650. Like, well, why? Because they care that you pay sooner. So it's a whole long story, but
thank you.
But don't pay for the score. Just get those 3 there's 3 reports. And what you want to look for is look for any discrepancies. Is there anything out there that you didn't know that there was this credit? Because in this day and age of fraud and identity theft, that's out there. So looking for those discrepancies. Is there anything that needs to be cleaned up? Is there weird collection stuff that's out there that you didn't know about, that there was a medical bill that you weren't aware of, or whatever? You co-signed with someone on a loan years ago that you forgot about, and they became a deadbeat, and the credit company never came back to you because they couldn't track you down. So they just put a lien out there against you. So how do you get that stuff cleaned up? So going against and cleaning all of those things up, making sure you know where you are, that also help you with as you put together a budget. So we'll talk about that too, because it gives you all your monthly payments. So
if
help people
someone
with that
is afraid to look at their credit score because it's easier to live with your head in the sand, what encouragement can you give? Like, I don't want to, what if I find stuff? I don't want to know. I don't want to see how bad my finances are. Well, can you give us some hope? Like, it will work out. Just get your shit together.
If you don't start, you're never going to get your shit together. You can get your shit together. So again, everybody has the ability to do it. So, but you've got to start with pulling those, knowing what the hell you have, because at some point it's going to bite you in the butt. Yeah. And if you really have your head in the sand, it's really going to bite you hard, because you're going to say, okay, great, I don't need to borrow anything because my car is paid for, all this stuff's done. Well, as soon as you have really shitty credit and you haven't dealt with it, that's when your car is going to blow up. And now you got to get a new car. And you probably, if you have your head in the sand about your finances, you probably aren't a saver either. So how the hell are you going to buy a car?
All right. Thank you.
So
Thanks,
this is like kind of an important thing.
Thanks,
this is part
Mom.
of being an adult. You're over 18. You got to do it. So if you're under 18, make sure you're pulling credit scores or credit reports on your kids.
Ooh,
one of the biggest areas of fraud today, because babies now are born and they're issued a social security number within a week later, is for 18 years that's sitting out there and nobody's looking at it. It is a huge opportunity for fraudsters, identity theft on minors. So make sure you're pulling it on your minor children. If you have seniors in your life, make sure you're pulling it on seniors too, because seniors and minors are the two, because they're not usually borrowing. It's easy for them to be able to have their identities stolen. And so there's nothing like your minor now becoming an adult and they've got all this stuff out there against them.
Wow.
So looking at that stuff early and getting it fixed early. And it's really easy to fix the stuff, actually, if there's actually wrong stuff on the report.
I was going to say, what is a quick tip then if you find something?
If you find something on there through the annualcreditreport.com, you can actually go in and dispute right there. If you have any documentation, you can upload documentation. The FTC put an act out last year. Congress did. FTC is enforcing it, but they have, I think it's 75 days the credit reporting agency has to deal with it. It used to be that they wouldn't deal with it. It's another reason why I don't like credit reporting agencies, but that's besides the point. But they didn't have to deal with it until they wanted to. And so you would dispute something and it would just sit there for 6 months because they get paid by whoever's reporting information. So if like the bank doesn't report new information, they're like, whatever. And so they wouldn't do anything. Yeah. And so now they have to, I think it's 75 days. I think it's 2.5 months, but 2.5 months is a long time if you're trying to get a mortgage.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have 2.5 months to straighten out your credit. So do it now. So in our household, what we do is the week between Christmas and New Year's, that's our budget month, our budget week. We do our big budget that week. We look at, we pull all of our credit reports. It's all of our goal setting, all of that stuff. But that's the time for us, that's our week to do it. So just pull it and then put a reminder out on your electronic calendar. And then next year, pull it again.
Nice. All right.
So that way you just get used to doing that and staying on top of it. So anyway, so that's you can also freeze credit reports. So you can freeze yours and you can freeze your minor reports. So you can put a freeze out there through the credit agencies so that nobody can get to the credit. I will say, make sure if you do that, you put somewhere so you can figure out your passwords and pins for that, like that you can get to them quickly. Cause when you're at Macy's and you want to get a credit, don't do it. But, they go to pull your credit report and it's locked out like, sorry, we can't. So you get declined.
Got it.
So make sure you know that.
And why would you freeze it?
Just so nobody can go out there and dink with it. If it's frozen, nobody can take out new credit without. So it protects you.
Oh, okay.
It protects you.
Do you freeze yours?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's locked down, but that said, I'm still going to pull it and make sure there's nothing else out there.
So would your non-legal, just my girlfriend advice be that we check our credit report and then we freeze it?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Glad I asked.
You pay a fee for that, but it's worth it.
Okay.
Yep.
And then no one can pull out anything. Should we freeze our kids? How much is the fee, you think? If you remember correctly. You don't have to be correct. I mean, we're talking 100.
No,
50.
It's like $20 or something like that I mean, your family of four is be like $80. It's not much to do it, and it's worth it just to do that. You can do
Crazy.
it. Yeah.
Thank you. Didn't even know that. You're welcome, listeners. You're welcome.
Yeah, it's not a lot, and it just protects you. It just makes sure, like I say, you put your username and password somewhere you're going to find it, especially for the minors, because you do that now, and then 18 years later, you're like, oh yeah, and then you got to figure out how you're going to get it unfrozen. So I haven't crossed that bridge yet, but you kind of want to.
Got it. Do you have the girls as frozen? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very interesting.
I'm anal about stuff.
This is something I didn't even know existed.
You shouldn't even be surprised that I'm not anal about everything. So yes.
I love it. It's amazing. I love it. All right.
So that's step one of getting a checkup. That's really easy. Go pull your credit report. It's going to take like 10 minutes. Pull it, save it, download it. I wouldn't say print it. You can, but the annual credit report goes back to your very first thing you got when you turned 18 or whenever you got your first credit thing. So it shows you everything. It's a full report. It's not like only the last 7 years. So it's like 40 pages long.
Okay.
So you just download it as a PDF and go save it somewhere. Don't unless you're dying to print it. Because once it's printed, then now you got to shred it.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Right?
Cool. Yeah.
All
right. Note to self, get a shredder. Got it.
Don't just go throw it out in the trash.
We do have a shredder. Anyone listening, don't trying to get my stuff. We do. We shred everything.
They burn it all.
Burn it all down.
You're in the country. You can have a bonfire.
Yep. Got to get my burn barrel.
Big one. So anyway, so that's step one.
Okay.
From there, then I would say start working. You can use that as the basis for a net worth statement. So we keep our net worth statement up to date monthly because we're anal, but, and we're very goal oriented, but doing it at least once a year with like, what are all of our accounts? Where are they at? How much is in them? All of that stuff. And then all the debts that go with that. So you can look at it and see what your total net worth is. That gives you a starting line of where you're at. And you can set your goals from there of how you want to, whether it's paying stuff off, it's adding more assets, not liabilities. But looking at that piece of it, that'll help you. It's also good to have that because we always put ours in our safe, in our firebox next to our wills, so that once a year we put it in, we don't put it every month, but once a year we put it in there if there's a major change. That way our executors, we become roadkill. All we have to do is pull out our will, It has our list of everything right there to make it really easy.
All the accounts that you have and everything.
All of the accounts, all of the account numbers, all of that. And again, in a safe so that it's not just out there for somebody to steal. So, but that's an easy thing to do, and it'll help. Like, if push comes to shove, if you've ever had to deal with settling an estate, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's a hot mess trying to figure out where all the bills are, what accounts do they have, how do I find all this stuff. Put it all on one spreadsheet makes it really easy, makes it easy to update too if it's on a spreadsheet versus if you handwrite it, then you got to handwrite it every time.
I just have to break in and say thank you, Amelia, for sharing this, because it's fun to listen to funny stories. And you know I love a good funny story. But I also just really appreciate the real shit. Like, this is overwhelming. Well, no, it's like I'm thinking of people, like, I'm not even really thinking of people listening. I'm thinking of myself, and it's like, I don't want to think about this. But, like, guys, freaking adults, we have to.
Yeah.
Come on. Except for a couple of my teenage listeners. Shout out. I don't even know if you exist. But, like... this sucks. Like, this sucks, Amelia. I don't want to deal with this.
Adulting sucks, but you know what? We're adults.
I know. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this.
Welcome.
So, yeah.
So, okay. So that's
quick shout out for that.
Yeah. So that's if you look at your credit history is your past, your net worth statement is your current, your budget is your future. So then all of that helps you put together a budget. And that budget is incredibly important. So if you look at that, we'll talk about how to actually put in a real budget. So I'm like flipping through my pages here and my net worth statement to see if I had any other stuff that I wanted to share specifically on that. I don't really think there is. But you can, net worth is pretty simple. Assets minus liabilities is net worth. So your house, your cars, your checking accounts, 401ks, all of that goes on the asset piece. Anything that's debt associated with any of those put on there. And then that gives your final net worth. And that gives you so that you'll be able to see where you are as you're trying to set goals and as you're trying to pay things off. That'll help with that piece of it. And this is also the banker in me, the commercial banker in me. I always love it when people come in and tell me, I have $1 million business. It means that they made $1 million. They grossed $1 million top line. It's like, what's your business actually worth? What's the actual net value of it? Not net revenue. What's your net value of it? That is a very different number than your $1 million. So it's kind of the same thing. Like, we make 6 figures. Awesome. So what's your actual net worth? Negative what? That's the reality of it. So it's that same thing. So it shows you, it gives you a snapshot of where you really actually are. And it's a real adult moment of like, good, bad, or ugly, look in the mirror. Yeah, and it's important, and that's your starting point. So, so using that of where you are, and then from there, because you've also pulled your credit report and you have all this, it gives you your monthly payment. So that gets you into budgeting. So we'll talk about that as we go too. But you talked about setting goals, and so to me, having a goal is important for budgeting because it.
What are you working towards? Yeah. Why? Of course, you're going to live for today because who cares about tomorrow?
Yeah. So if you were to set a goal, give me a financial goal. Like, what's on your?
Go to Thailand.
Oh, why Thailand?
To see there's a missionary there that I went to high school with.
Turn your mic on.
There's a missionary in Thailand.
Hi.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. Hello.
How you doing?
Here I am.
Hey. Sassy voice.
There's a missionary in Thailand who does mission work there, lives there, has a family there from here. I grew up with him.
Grew up on a dairy farm here.
Hey.
Yes, he did. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be, I think, really cool to go visit where he is, just to see. I mean, we support them financially. Our church definitely does.
The church does.
We
I don't want to take too much credit.
No. We do a little bit, but but to go, that would be a goal.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I think that's the important part of having the goal. It's not just I want to travel.
Yeah.
Why? Because saying I want to travel is not specific enough.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to say, I want to go to Thailand, and the reason I want to go to Thailand is this. So having that purpose and that passion behind it, because budgeting sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you, it's hard.
Discipline sucks.
But
we're called to be disciplined.
Yeah, and life is hard. And living by a budget is hard. And making sacrifices is hard. And if you don't have a reason for it, emotional, here's why I'm doing this. When it's hard, it's easy to go, meh. I can blow my money over here. I can do that. It's like, no, but I'm actually trying to go to Thailand to take my family or to go see a missionary or to do this thing. And I want to do it by this day. So maybe I shouldn't buy that $5 coffee. Maybe I shouldn't go do the shopping trip or do whatever that easy blow feels good right now is, because I'm willing to do today what you won't so I can do tomorrow what you can't comes back in. So going back to the George Clayson quote that's there is it gives you that piece of it. And if you have that purpose, then it makes it a lot easier to go back to it. So if you think about people, especially this time of year, the big thing is I want to be debt free. Well, what does that mean? Well, that purpose then, that passion piece of it is then it gives you freedom. And I want to feel that flexibility. I want to have options. If I'm debt free, I don't have all of that. I don't have that burden on me. So you can look at that at people that say, I want to retire early. Well, what does that mean? It means that I can spend more time with my family. I can travel. I can do all of these things. I want to save for my kids' education. Well, why? Because I want their future to be better than mine, and I want my grandkids' future to be better than mine. And so kind of tying those kinds of things back into an emotional purpose makes it a lot better for that goal setting. So then when you're budgeting, it doesn't hurt as much because when you're putting money towards that line item, it's because there's a passion behind it. So it makes it not hurt quite as bad.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
I love it. Cause like I said, I think that we, just as humans, you're like chasing, feeling good basically. And so if you're not feeling good, like, so with money, if we're like, oh, we want to go do something fun with our money today because we want to feel better, you kind of have to build that muscle of, what's it called? I can't even think of the word. When you wait for something like kids, patience. Yeah. Or like when you put off for today, like they did this experiment with kids where they gave them marshmallows and they said, if you eat the marshmallow, you can eat the one, but if you wait for me, you'll have two. And so it tests the kids to see who has the ability to, I just can't think of the word, but
resilience, maybe.
Yeah. But
I like patience, resilience.
Yeah. Delayed gratification. That's what it was. Delayed gratification. Well, Amelia has shared some great tips and she has so much more to share that we actually decided to do a second episode. Yes, a legit number 2 pit stop. Same guest, same topic, number 2. So check it out next week for Amelia's part 2 episode of the Pit Stop, more great tips. And you can catch her full flush this Friday. We actually go over her vision for improving the financial health of her local community. She has some great ideas and something that I think could be duplicated everywhere. So join us back with the full flush to hear her vision. And of course, next week for more wonderful tips.
And that's a wrap for now.
Thanks for listening to Flushing It Out with Samantha Spittle. Music provided by twinmusicom.org. Song titled Night at the Dance Hall. Sound editing by me, Jeremy Spittle. A special thanks to our studio sponsor, M&M Exteriors. Visit their website at mmexteriors.com for all of your roofing, siding, and gutter needs in the Northern Virginia area. Visit our website at flushingitout.com and be sure to subscribe. This has been a Spitfire production.
That was the greatest thing I've ever heard.
Don't forget to check out the after show on the Full Flush bonus episode where Samantha and I continue the conversation with our guest. You can find the Full Flush episode right here on Flushing It Out every Friday.